Let's make ultra-thin floating pockets for our junk journals. Hello and welcome to the Treasured Page. I'm Melanie and this is my quiet crafting space. Yes, you will see an enormous pile of journals here on the table, and you can see here that this was the very first project that we started back in March. So all the little pieces, the fabric, the trim, the embellishment, the charms, the beads, the swinging, dangling loveliness, it has all been sent to me by my swap partners around the UK. And this is a swap group around the UK that have been joining in this time for the winter swap. So there have been different people throughout the different swaps. So for anyone starting junk journaling and finding the whole thing overwhelming and not knowing how they would even begin or how you would even go about putting something like this together, the point is that it happens gradually. It happens step by step when you can feel like you can come to your craft table. Nothing happens overnight. It happens slowly and steadily, bit by bit, learning and playing and having a go. So we haven't been making the journals to begin with. We have been making pages. We've been creating papers, and then we've been adding the things to the papers. So we started off by making an envelope, and then we found somewhere where it could come and live. So junk journaling is the art of collecting things. It's seeing the value in things that others throw away. It's creating something from nothing. It's also transforming a piece that once was. Maybe it's a vintage piece from the past which has no purpose now. Maybe it's an old map and things have changed and the information isn't relevant. Maybe that could be used in a journal and it could be put down as a background. So perhaps that map can be turned into something fun, a background piece to images that you want to add, different decorative papers, adding sewing and stamps and cards that we were given, beautiful papers that have been printed on speciality inks and dyes and wonderful old rag papers that have been used there. And just having a play and swapping with others has been an incredibly healing and fulfilling pastime for so many of you. Having the idea of a vintage adventure, looking at how people used to travel around in the past and what they did, the steam trains, the hot air balloons, the paddle boats, things that we like to have a look at and see the different fabrics and textures, the old vintage clothing, the 1920s, the 30s, all of the china and the different textures of that era, and the colours and the sepia tones, the black and white images, and some of the grunge and the old world stains of yesteryear, the script writing, the calligraphy, handwritten papers, the beautiful flourished signatures that you see from this time and era. So looking at junk journaling in this way, looking at scraps from old forgotten pastimes and bringing them into books has been a wonderful way to relax, and many of you have enjoyed that and they come along for the ride. So these are not finished journals because there's still writing space, so this could hold my story, it could hold somebody else's story in the future. But now I've got these, and knowing that we're going to be starting a new project in March, I have this project here that I started last March. I've got a complete journal waiting for more creativity. I've got my journals ready for this year. I'm beyond prepared, and that feels really, really nice to know. So these will be wonderful journals to continue to play with. There's always more things you can find to add. There's always more pages you can decorate, and there's always more ideas and personal things that you can put in them now. But that's the whole point. It's fun to journal, it's fun to explore, and now I've got my winter one that I'm making, and then I can have a look back at the pages and be inspired by the ideas and excited by what I collected and how I put it together. And because I spent time in my quiet crafting space, because I was calm and I was centered when I made these beautiful pages, and I took you all along for the ride for all of these pages that you're seeing here. There's a video for each and every one of them. Because of that, when I look back, it instantly brings me back to that calming place when I created it. It brings me joy. I'm connecting back with nature here. I'm having a look at a nostalgic past. I'm reminded of people I care about. And I am, of course, inspired. So I feel like, oh, that was a good idea. I'd like to explore that more. This is why these are so treasured. This is why they're special, because you can see how far you've come. And then you can apply more ideas to where you're going. Now today we're going to have a look at making a floating pocket. A floating pocket is something that will move through the journal with you. It's not fixed, it's not attached, it's something that can be removed. And in there you can add things. You can have a tag, you can have your journaling cards for the week, you could have your stickers. You take it with you, and so you then go onto the next page, and perhaps inside it's got all the things that you want to have. This works if it's a bigger journal as well, because sometimes you want to have lots of scraps and you've got a particular idea. Well, it's great to add them in there. It keeps them all together, particularly if you thought, oh, I'm collecting things for the page that's coming up. And that works quite nicely if you're working towards prompts every month. If you want to write a prompt list, you could then think, oh, I've got something for that prompt. You could put it inside your floating pocket. You could take that further back into the journal and you could put it there as a reminder, going, I'm going to use all the scraps inside this floating pocket. And this could be an envelope. It could be anything that you convert. So now you've had a look at why we might want to make a floating pocket and add it to a journal eventually. Let's just do the hardest part, which is to begin. So first things you're going to need are some papers. Now I've got some book pages here. This is from a larger book. It was from an atlas, and this is the index paper. Now it's not particularly thick, but it's also not flimsy either. It's the paper weight of maybe a 70 GSM photocopy paper weight. That is fine. Anything less than that would be brilliant as well. So we're looking for a larger piece of paper because these need to come and work within this size journal. So I'm going to be making my pocket to fit inside this signature keeper here. So for me, I'm looking for a piece of paper that's going to be big enough to accommodate the size of journal signature that I'm working with here. This is 21 centimetres by 11 centimetres, so it's 8.5 inches by 4.25. But that could be a little bit longer if you want, depending on what you're working with. So this is a similar size to the travelling notebook pages that you can get, the TN style. So what we're looking for is something that will accommodate this, and this is going to be perfect because it can be a little bit shorter. That's going to be great. So I'm going to be using this. I've also found these book pages. This came out of an old book to do with cookery and household and recipes, and that is because the theme for this month was home and hibernate, and I've been looking at houses, but also it could be a bird's nesting and it could be natural. I'm looking at the home though. All right, and here you'll see this is a little flyer for the treasured page spring craft swap sign up, and that is over on my Facebook page. That's the treasured page FB group. If you'd like to head over there, and if you're interested in joining the spring swap, which is going to be starting on the 1st of March 2025, you can put your name down and the country where you're living, and you could be added into the swap, and that will be starting for 3 months on the 1st of March. So if you'd like to join, I will give you swap partners that you can swap with over 3 months in your country, and providing we've got enough of you joining for the same country, we will be able to run the swap. So we need 4 people to join a swap in order for it to run efficiently, because we run it in a circular rolling list. So all the details for the spring craft swap sign up will be over on the Facebook page, and that will give you everything you need to know, and you can ask questions there. So it's going to be running for a year from the beginning of March through to the end of February 2026, and the last swap was called Send a Signature, but this swap is going to be called Build a Signature. Now we're going to be helping one another build our signature pages. We're going to be looking at different ways we can do that, but we'll be focusing on treasured pages. We're looking to start a swap in Australia. There's a lady who would like to find swap partners. There's also a lady who would like to find swap partners in India. For the organised swap, you would need to be in the same country. I'll do my best if we have enough people to run the swap in your country, if we have 4 or more join. You just need to add in the comments below your name and the country that you're crafting from. So I'm just tidying up the edges of this book page, getting rid of those bits so that I've got text right up to the edge. Just using the metal ruler to tear away this edge here. I'm putting the shorter edge underneath my ruler so that I can get more leverage. Tear that down. Okay. All right, now I'm looking at my papers, and what I want to do is I want to bring them in so that they're going to fit the width of my signature without too much overhang. So, all right, let's bring these up here like that so we can see what we're doing. And I've got them like this. So that's all it is. It's just a folded piece of paper, but we are leaving a little gap. That's going to be your pocket. All right, so in its simplest form, that's the pocket. But now we want to embellish it and we want to strengthen it because this is quite easily going to get torn. You can glue those down to create your pocket, or you can separate them. Sometimes we find a fold creates more of a bulk and it's actually better to cut them apart and stick them down. Okay, now we're going to work out what we are going to decorate it with. This works really nicely with napkin, the top sheet of napkin. It works really well with decorative tissue papers as well, and you could very quickly have a really pretty embellished pocket that you could either sew down there and there or glue down, and you would have it all looking rather beautiful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep with the vintage feel for now, and I'm going to use some sewing pattern paper on mine, see if I can create something with a bit of a sense of nostalgia going on, and then I think I'm going to bring in my sheer fabrics. So sheer fabrics obviously are very thin, and as we saw here when I did this on a video back in the autumn, it's created this lovely book cloth quality and it feels nice. So I want to use this. It's a tattered, torn old silk scarf, but I have laundered it. It smells really nice, and I'm going to just put that down. So what I'm thinking, I can either ink it or I could stain it with tea or coffee, but I haven't got the time. So what I want to do is put down some tissue paper over the top of it. All right, so I'm getting more prepared now. I've got some wet glue at the ready. I've got a paintbrush to put the glue on. I've cut my tissue paper here, and now what I want to do is separate the top part from the bottom part. So I'm now along that fold, I'm going to cut them apart like that. All right, so now I've got that. I'm taking away the top pieces and we're going to focus on the bottom ones first. I'm happy with the way that that looks. I liked the little peep through of the information there on the Atlas index page, so I'm turning them over, and this is where I'm going to put my decorative paper, or my tissue paper. In this case it's sewing pattern paper, and I'm just going to glue that on with a wet glue. So this could be PVA, it could be stick glue. I find that that doesn't always stick down as perfectly. You'd have to put a lot on, but there's nothing to stop you having a go. Now I'm repeating the process, just putting the collage glue down all over, folding this over because we had plenty of excess there. I'll just smooth that out. There we go. It's not covered at the top, but we'll probably cut it down. It was quite long. Right, I'm just adding a little bit up the top there just so that everything was covered. Then I've got options. I may well chop a bit off the top anyway. And then now, if I want to add in anything over here as a bit of collage, I could do so. So I've got some soup recipes here. I'm just tearing out the little information here, how to make potato soup, how you used to make that in the 1940s, and then we'll just have a look at where that might look quite nice and add in a little bit of extra collage. Okay, I'll keep going. This one is for macaroni soup. That sounds fun. So I'm going to put that down there as well. Just take the edge off so that I'm just concentrating on the text block. And put that, needs to come over a bit, put that there, and there we go. So I'm just adding in the last little scrap here, and it says how to solder household articles. how to use glue. Well, hopefully we know how to use glue. So that's a basic collage just going down there, giving a sense of the theme of home and the vintage era. So I'm going to leave that to dry now. Really fun. Okay, now I'm separating the two. I want to work on them and sort of separate them so that I'm not working on them as two pieces. And what I'm going to do is just add a few more little pieces of paper here and there. So as I was having such a nice time with the collage, I just think that it might be nice to bring in a pop of colour, and I thought that I could use some stamps. I've got some old stamps here that I've been collecting. I've also got this little book here, so I've got a page with some numbers on there, and I'm just going to tear a bit down for some collage. And this came from a discount and commission table book. It's a lovely, lovely old book, and the binding there is just released some pages. As you can see, that's one of the signatures right there. So anyone not familiar with what a signature is, that's a signature in an old original bound book. And you can see there it's coming apart. So the book is made up of several signatures, and that's what we're doing when we are building up our signatures. So my last swap partner, Kirsten, was sent some pages from this book, and she was very intrigued because she used to be an accountant, so she was interested in the old money. So that's what that's all about. So if you haven't seen Kirsten's video via the Facebook page, you can have a look at the link below, and you can see the moment when she received the parcel that I sent her last month for this project, which was our January project, the folio. And this one folded out, but the one I sent her was all embellished, so you can see that being opened and Kirsten's reaction, which was lovely. She really enjoyed it. So yeah, head over and have a look at that video after this one and see what she did with the scraps that I sent. Just start tearing fragments. This is a bit of a stronger paper actually, and I think sort of things like that look quite good. So we'll start putting in some bits there, quite like the vintage ones when we're doing some vintage decorating. So we've got ones with buildings here, houses, some flowers there. See if I've got anything. This one's nice bird. So that's the sort of thing. Now I'm going to work on my front. I'm going to do one at a time. I'm putting down more glue, and I'm going to paste over the top this sheer fabric, total scrap. It really is a scrappy piece, and it is so incredibly thin that it's got holes in it. It's been ripped and torn over the years. It is a vintage piece which I picked up in a grab bag. Sometimes you can get them in charity shops where they have been scuffed around the shop for, you know, a long time, and then you can ask for these things, and they're only too pleased that you take them for a small donation. So you can ask if they've got any waste scraps of fabric out the back. You may be lucky. So let's put that down there without too many holes in it. I mean, I like the holes because that poses a new opportunity to do something else. Right, let's just now see what we've got. Okay, now I'm going to paste over the top of it so it really does melt into the paper behind and become a much more strengthened piece, even though this fabric is very, very fragile and falling apart. It will be strengthened by the backing paper, and it may give it more of a translucent effect with the text that you can see peeping through, which I think is quite pleasing. So now I'm doing two more. This is the backs, and I'm just putting down my glue. So we looked at the different tones, the caramel colours, the aging book page, the tea and the coffee dye, but now I think we'll have a pop of colour and do something really bright. And I think it's all about warming up and having the confidence, because I've got some nicer fabric which I was a bit loath to use unless I know what the technique was going to turn out like. So I think we're all a bit like that. We have things, we don't want to use them, and for those reasons we never do. They stay sat in a cupboard or a drawer somewhere, and you are storing them for the purpose of something, you're just not sure what. So that's the case with many things here at the Treasured Page, and I've got some very nice fabrics and I've had them for a really long time. So now I'm going to look at really bright colours. I've got some tissue paper here. This is just gift wrap paper that has come to me and has got the various stickers, and it is all torn, and I just want to get a bit that is going to cover the whole lot. And then the pink paper going down here, that's all gone on really nicely, very satisfying. And I'm just putting some of the collage glue over the top of this to really seal that in. That will give it a matte finish as well. All right, and now I'm tempted to put my sewing paper back on here. This is going to be incredibly strong because of the glue and the different fibres being meshed together by the glue. So that one's going to be great. They're all a bit different. And then this one is going to have this piece on. Just get rid of the pink. Or do we like the pink? Quite like the pink. Okay, now we'll add that down. So I'm just using up the scraps that are around the table. Just creating this panelled strip from very thin paper. So we've got 2 tissue papers because the sewing paper is very, very thin. It does have a strength to it though, a little bit like a tea bag paper. So if you have tea bag paper in sheets, that could be a good one to use for this project. Anything that you can get your hands on that's slightly sheer. A lace would work as well, if it's a very, very thin lace. And cheesecloth would work, we could do that. Just play about with what you've got to hand. Now this is a larger A5 style pocket or pouch designed for a bigger journal, and it has the book page which you can see there, and then over the top was a top sheet of napkin, and that creates this wonderful see-through effect where you can read the book page and the script behind but see through. So for that you would need to have a white napkin with your floral embellishment or however it comes, and then the white, the negative space, becomes something for which to see through to your vintage book. And that was constructed by gluing pages of book page together. So we've seen this one before, but that was 6 book pages put together. It's a bit broken, this one, but it would all be glued down. So you would glue there, and then that would become a pocket. So this could become a floating pocket. You could do that. It could be made like that. Okay, now I'm just looking at some decorative papers that I've got here, some quite nice Italian papers, and they both look great. I just thought that that was a bit more modern, so I might just tear a strip of this down and potentially have that on there like that. Just lay that gently, see how we feel about that. Just paste in this. So I've got this sheer fabric and it looks to me like windows. Just going to see if that's satisfying. Nice rip. I'm just going to add this in. It's a bit of an abstract piece now. Quite nice. I like it's reminiscent of windows. But this is all about texture. It's quite difficult to perceive that on a video until you have a go and use similar products and similar materials. You will then discover the joy that is the different feels and textures and the nice quality of paper to the porous paper, and building in the fabrics and the laces. It's all part of the experience. The different textures, the layers that you can bring into a piece, and really enjoy the process, the art of slowing down. And I'm just going to paste this piece of paper down, which I think could look like a label. I'm going to have that there, maybe coming off. Just paste this one down here. There we go, and this almost looks like a tower on this one. I love that. So I'm going to leave these all to dry, and then we're going to piece them up together. Okay, these are going to be the top parts to the pink and blue tissue paper ones that we just did, bringing in more glue, and this time I found some fabric. And you can see just off to the side here, I've got really nice silk fabric, and I bought this in a scrap pack. I bought this scrap pack from Etsy, so you can find sellers on there that will have remnant fabrics. These were bright ones, sari silks. Definitely worth having a little hunt about for scraps if you're just starting out and you haven't got those colours, if that's what you want to journal in. Something moving towards spring and more positive, happy colours, bringing those into your journal, that's quite a fun idea. And just as much as it is to go down the natural route of using cotton fabrics and maybe using up old pillowcases, things that you have in the home anyway, things that you're not going to use anymore, or clothing that no longer suits you and it can't really go to Goodwill because there's a rip in it, that sort of thing. You know, you could then launder that, make sure that it's clean, and be able to come and bring it into your crafts and give it a new lease of life. So that is the recycling, repurposing, and just generally making do with what we already have, things that we have got. Looking around your stash, maybe you are somebody that has got plenty of fabric scraps but you don't like them, maybe you could dye them. So that's another way. So really have a look at what you've got. We're dealing with junk, we're dealing with the things that you deem to be junk, and then we're trying to work out how we can repurpose it. So this was a book that I can no longer use. It's an atlas which is well out of date, still calling countries by the wrong name now as things have changed. So therefore it is junk. It's no longer educational for anybody. So we're just using the papers. And these scrap fabrics, well, some of them have got marks and stains and things. They're clean, they've been laundered, but they're never going to be anything useful for making clothing. So they are just now for crafts. And you know, it's going to seep into the glue. That's going to look a bit strange to begin with, but I'm going to embrace that and put the glue down over the top of it, seal everything in, and let that soak in. It'll turn a darker colour. So here I'm mirroring the colour of the tissue paper that I was using earlier, and here I'm going to bring this piece in here. I'm just doing half of it because I hadn't got enough width, and I thought that I would put another strip down the side there. I think it's really fun to work with the vibrant fabrics. I love working with the grunge and the coffee stain as well, but you can also have bright grunge as well. You can have the rough, the ready, the torn edges. Not everybody likes that. You might prefer a nice clean cut straight edge, and that's absolutely fine because you can adapt this project to however you feel it might fit in with what you like and what makes you happy and brings you joy, whatever colour fabrics speak to you and how you would like to have the edging of the fabric. Is it going to be frayed? Is it going to be cut straight? There are no rules here, remember, so you just do what feels right to you. Now what I want to do is I want to take some of this and put it over here, so I'm just going to do that. Okay, so I'm leaving this one to dry. We can trim it down at the end. I'm just going to add this in here now and give the contrast of the pink and the turquoise blue. Now, even though this is wet, I'm just removing that fabric. That bit is dry, so it's fine to cut away. So I'm going to leave them to dry to see how they react with the matte medium. Are they going to remain dark colour? Would we see any of that sort of sheen that's going on that fabric? How is it going to turn out? So we're going to see how we get on with those pieces when they're dry. And here they all are, they're all dry. I'm going to show you, I've started cutting them out, and you can see there's some nice texture on there. Nothing shiny. The matte medium has really done its job. This one's really nice. This was the original, so it has lost some of its luster, but it's a very soft, very pliable. It's not crunchy. and it's nice and, well, it's like paper. There would be a crease if I pushed that down, but it's a lovely book cloth. So there we are, that's how to make book cloth. Okay, and then we've got these. Now they look great all cut out. I might trim them down a little bit more. I really like them nice and precise and straight. So I really like these with nice straight edges on those. And then these ones, I haven't quite cut these out, but they're looking good. These need to be cut out, and then this was the other collage piece. So I'm going to now cut everything out, and then we'll start seeing how best to embellish and piece them together as floating pockets. Okay, so I've cut them out. They're nice and straight. What I want to do is put some more embellishment on these sides. I don't want to put too much on them. I want to keep them nice and thin. So I'm going to opt for some stamping, but this is fabric. So what I thought would be really fun, and to mimic what I'm seeing here, which is some gold embroidery thread, I'm going to have a go at embossing. I've got my gold embossing powder there, and I'm going to be using my Versamark embossing stamp. So I've been looking through my stamps, and I've got this one. This is quite a nice one from Stamperia, and I want to see if I could use that down the side there. Right, I'm just putting a little bit of that embossing ink onto the stamp. Okay, pushing that down. I can see there's something there. I'll do the same again over here. See what we've got. So I'm just putting on the embossing powder over the top of that sticky ink, and that should just grab onto the powder, and then we'll tip away the powder and we'll see what we're left with. So just give it a little tap, hope that it adheres to everything. Okay. Put the powder back into the pot. So now I'm going to heat up the embossing powder and see what we've got. Wow, I love them. They've come out so brilliantly. That's come out better than I had hoped for, actually. So this is Princess Gold by Ranger embossing powder. Really nice colour that is, a lovely gold. I think I want to now go ahead and do more on these ones. So I'm just repeating the process again for these stamps. That has come out so nicely. Okay, just to recap, this was book page with very, very sheer fabric over the top of it, and I put that on with a collage medium, which was Liquitex matte gel matte medium. This is quite expensive, however a little goes a long way. You can use watered down PVA glue. You just need to make sure everything is dry before you start embossing it. Okay, so nice and thin, flexible and fabulous. That is a triumph. Now these could then be made into tags. You can back them with coffee dyed paper. They can become bookmarks. There's so many things that you can do with this alone. And then when you start bringing in the darker colours, you can see how your embossing powders would really, really pop. So this is another way of revitalising old craft supplies. So if you've got some embossing powder, if you've got some stamps, and if you can get yourself an embossing ink. Now embossing ink I think has a glycerine type base to it. You could perhaps paint glycerine on and then stamp it off onto a piece of paper, then try and put it on and get an impression. You could have a play around with that if you've got glycerine in the cupboard anywhere for cake crafting, baking, you know, so it could be a kitchen supply that you may have. But there we go. This is absolutely super. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach these on. I could glue them down, but I think I'm just going to sew them on. Okay, these were my original two. When I turn them over, you can see the vintage collage on the back there. And what I'm going to do is sew this on, make a pocket out of it. This is going to be our floating pocket, so I think a little thumb hole would be good there. And I thought what would be quite nice is just to ink along this edge here. And this is a vintage piece, so I'm just going round with the darkened edge here also. A little thumb hole there so we can get into our pocket, and I'm going to do the same on this one here. I started to glue this down and I have sort of stuck it at the top, but I'm thinking that it would look really nice with a stitched edge, so I'm going to do that for these pieces. I think all of them would look great, so I'm going to do that for these as well. I'm just putting some Fabri-Tac down there, but I don't want to have big globs of it, just enough to grab this sheer sort of trim. I think it's just torn fabric. So we'll just have a thumb hole in this one, and I'm going to take them all over to the sewing machine now. I'm going to keep this one plain. Okay, they are coming together now. I've got two sets. So these are my vintage ones. I've put a piece of lace down there. I've rounded the corners on this one and also this one, and I really like that look, so I'm going to round the corners on these two as well. And all we do is just push that in, take the corners off with the ink. If you've gone around already all the way around, then just get the corners, and also inside the thumb hole if that needs doing. And then just a little piece of this very nice vintage lace going down there. It's a nice flat one, not bulky. And there we go, two very different looks using different materials but the same technique. And so we've got more modern ones here, and these are the backs of those with the little writing labels there, and just a nice modern mixed media style to those, and then different again on that side. Loads of space there for adding ephemera and stickers and journaling cards to take that through anyone's journal, and that would work really well in a nice big journal, just as much as it's going to work in the skinny journals. And then we've got the vintage ones with the collage that we started on the back here. And there's a few things on here about making soup and how to use glue and lots of things of how to clean the marble and stuff like that. I thought it would be really good to have a 1950s housewife on there. So I was having a look in my things, and I have found this vintage Vogue model paper pattern with the images of the ladies there. So I'm going to make a photocopy of that and add the images there. And they have been cut out, inked around, and they're going to come and live here. And here we have them all complete for this month's project. This is the floating pocket. So this is part of the things that we need to make this month, and that was the very thin floating pocket. And it's super fine, super thin, but still strong enough to hold journaling cards and things. And there we go, that's some inspiration on one of the many ways that you can make a floating pocket for your journal. This was for the theme of home and hibernate, so I've gone for a fun vintage vibe there with our ladies looking very glamorous, and then they can come and live in the journal. So they would just come and slot in and then be able to be moved about, but contain all the things that you might want to put down on this page. So that could be attached with the paper clip. So the whole idea is that we'll have this hanging outside of our little folder journals, however you want to have them. But the challenge this month is to make an ultra thin floating pocket. And then we're also going to be having a decorative paper clip to attach it to our journals. So we've seen 2 examples there. These are the other ones which we've seen earlier, and they are slightly bolder colours. And again, on the back, they are more mixed media, modern ones, but they're very fun, using junk and scraps, and just going to work really nicely with a fun paper clip. So there's 2 different styles to inspire you. I hope that you have fun with that. I hope that that was inspirational for you. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, you can find me in your subscription list, and you'll be able to follow along with all the challenges that we have here every month, and you can play along and see how you get on with yours. Or if you'd like to follow along on Facebook and become a member in our Treasured Page FB group, you could put your photographs up there of what you've managed to come up with for your floating pocket this month, and also have a go at embellishing a paperclip to attach it to your journal. So this has been a lot of fun, and if you'd like to find out more about the swaps that we run, do have a look over on the Facebook page. And if you'd like to watch Kirsten's channel, Adventure in Crafting and Art, I will leave the link below where she opened up the parcel that I sent her recently, and that was a lot of fun. And if you'd like to find out more about the Spring Craft Swap sign up, do head over to my Facebook group. The link is in my link tree below in the description. You'll be able to click on that. Look for this post, which is in the featured section. If you can't find it immediately, you can read all the information there. You can add your name if you'd like to join in. From the 1st of March, you'll be committing to 3 projects as set by the Treasured Page, 1 project every month to be sent to 1 swap partner in your country. Alright everyone, this has been so much fun. Thank you for watching, and do please leave a comment and give me a thumbs up to help the channel grow. And above everything else, just slow down and make crafting time for you. Bye bye now.